All right, here we go again with take number 2. It's NEA Report coming at you on a Thursday afternoon, a little later in the day on Thursday than we would normally be coming at you guys. And we do have things working well now, it looks like. So there was some technical difficulties when we started it up the first time, but hey, sometimes it takes 2 tries. Stan Morris along with you on a day where we've got some stuff to cover. There's actually going to be a different format today to the show, just due to the fact that we started receiving lots of late breaking news late in the day today. In fact, I'm going to just go ahead, play the open for you, and we're going to get started. Here we go. Today we're talking about the results of injustice, and more specifically, everything to do with this Walnut Ridge police and railroad worker case. You guys know what the story is probably by now. We've covered it for several days on NEA Report. For those that don't, we'll let you get caught up on the previous videos. NEA Report, we're going to pick up from where we left off yesterday. There was a video that I showed you of the young lady. She was the wife of the railroad worker, Adam Finley. And whenever the young lady was with him at the jail, at the, Walnut Ridge Police Department to make a complaint, this took place. Listen closely.
From what I saw, he's lucky he didn't go to jail.
Who, Adam?
Mm-hmm.
For what?
Obstruction of justice.
What did he do?
He interfered with law enforcement officers' investigation of the site.
No, he didn't. But that's what Chief Kirksey told his wife whenever he had left the room. Again, I want you to hear this real closely. It's very low. I'm turning up the volume one more time. Just hear what he says. Hear her reaction.
From what I saw, he's lucky he didn't go to jail.
Who, Adam?
Mm-hmm.
For what?
Obstruction of justice.
What did he do?
He interfered with
answer.
law enforcement officers' investigation of the site.
But he didn't. So the thing is, and I'm going to get to all this here in a minute, we now have a statement from the boss of the prosecutor who brought charges against the railroad worker, Adam Finley. And he defends it. I'm going to get to that in a second. Before I get to that, I want to show everybody the cost of injustice. I want to show everybody what happens when police lie and then other police cover up for it. Do you think it just is a little legal bill? No. What happens is it destroys lives. It destroys families. And in some cases, destroys communities. Because in this specific case, this city could end up paying, or certain members of this city could end up paying quite a bit of money because of a lawsuit that literally disputes. It's all caught on video. So the dispute in the lawsuit is with the people denying what they saw on video. Like this.
Okay, it didn't look like you were working. Step back from me some, too. You get up on me again, we're going to have problems.
You see, the officer Mercado, in that stop that took place on December of 2016, the officer had the attitude from the beginning of the call, from the beginning of the stop, which was illegal. And he did stop him. And I say the stop was illegal because there was no traffic violation that took place to lead to a traffic stop. Okay, so you say he's investigating what could have been a crime because he saw a guy in an orange suit parked next to a railroad crossing power box. Well, once you see he works for the railroad, your investigation is over. The investigation, supposedly, as it's being termed here, continued because Officer Hothead, Officer I think I'm a king and I should be treated like I got a crown on, he didn't like the way Mr. Finley responded to him. And listen, Finley laughed because he couldn't believe this guy just told him to get back. Look at Finley's eyes, wide open. Watch what happens. Watch the officer's attitude just at Finley, uncomfortably, nervously laughing.
I'm glad you think this is a joke, sir.
I'm glad you think this is a joke, sir. says Officer Mercado. He obviously doesn't think it's a joke. It's nervous laughter. Everything about this situation, I've sat down and racked my brain trying to find some evidence in this or some reason why Adam Finley, the guy you're looking at on the screen, did something wrong. I can't. And I want you in chat, tons of people watching. Please send me any examples you can find in all these videos of this officer, of the railroad worker doing something wrong and not of the officer. I want to tell you what happens when police cover up for each other and lie. I'm going to have a hard time making it through some of this without getting emotional, folks. This is live, and this bothers me very much. I spoke with the woman I just showed you the clip of a second ago. I spoke with her last night. You can tell after that clip I showed you, she's looking at her husband like that he may have lied to her. She just had a police chief tell her he's lucky he didn't go to jail. This, look.
From what I saw, he's lucky he didn't go to jail.
Okay? And notice, he's not in the room, the railroad worker, when she says that. That's what she heard. And her trust was shattered. Throughout the video, which I watched yesterday, and it's all online at our YouTube page. If you want to watch the full 45-minute video, it's kind of difficult to get through because it's a lot of waiting. She's questioning him, was this you? Did you do something? And of course she would. Why would the cops be lying to her? But as she's sitting right there, with him out of the room, the seed of distrust is planted. They separated weeks later. Got a divorce a couple of months later. When I asked her why, she said it was because of this incident. A couple's life was destroyed because police defended the behavior of this.
Yeah, you're obstructing with my operation. No, let me tell you. I work for him. Look at all this stuff back here. What did I tell him about getting up on me, sir? Turn around.
If that feels like something that, if you're in charge of a city, you agree with or want to see, I think you should be in another field. It's what I'm calling the result of injustice. And for me, when I saw this, yes, there's anger at the officer involved. But then, the chief of police defended this officer and went so far as to charge the victim of a civil rights violation with 2 crimes. But he come back in the room and said he was told to charge him by Deputy Prosecutor Ryan Cooper. Cooper works under the 3rd Judicial District Prosecutor, Henry Boyce. So I reached out to Henry Boyce today. In fact, I reached out and my exact text to him was not one that you probably normally would receive from a reporter. But here's what I said exactly. Do you allow your prosecutors to charge people with false crimes to cover up for dirty cops, Henry? Text sent today, 10:30 a.m. He said he would get us a written response back, and that he did this afternoon, 3 p.m. This is what I considered to be a startling response. I couldn't believe I saw it, but here it is. Quote, in response to recent inquiries to my office regarding citations issued that resulted from a traffic stop made by a Walnut Ridge police officer, I have inquired into the matter. The charges were actually made by citation at the recommendation of my deputy prosecuting attorney, Ryan Cooper, after having the events of the traffic stop related to him by Walnut Ridge Chief of Police Chris Kirksey. Kirksey told him over the phone, by the way, this is not a quote now, just me explaining background. He told him over the phone, and based on the description he got from Kirksey, which we now know is wrong because we've seen how Kirksey perceived this video totally differently from reality, because of that he made the decision to charge him with 2 crimes, obstruction of justice and resisting arrest. We know what happened now to those charges because if you don't know, and if you're just joining us, he was acquitted. Finley was acquitted. Judge Adam Weeks in Lawrence County is a man that has honor. I'm not so sure about some of the other people I'm talking about anymore after this. But Adam Weeks is somebody that stood up. He had this case come before him, and he threw the charges out. That means the charges, bogus. Here's what the rest of the statement said, and this is very interesting. It's about to get very interesting, folks. You don't think it is already. Quote, I've also reviewed the video of the incident that led to the citations being issued and feel that the evidence justified the recommendation Mr. Cooper made to the chief of police. Arkansas Code Annotated 554-103 states, quote, a person commits the offense of refusal to submit to arrest if he or she knowingly, that's a big word, knowingly, let's just highlight that, refuses to submit to an arrest by a person known by him or her to be a law enforcement officer effecting an arrest. As used in this subsection, refuses, this is still Henry, refuses means active or passive refusal. Passive refusal, just so you know, is when somebody puts their arms out and they try to cuff you, but then you hold your arms steady and you refuse to move for them. That doesn't mean being unaware that this is a serious arrest. Finish the quote, and then I'll tell you what I'm talking about on that unawareness. Quote, it's no defense to a prosecution under this subsection that the law enforcement officer lacked legal authority to make the arrest if the law enforcement officer is acting under the color of his or her official authority. It also bears note that prosecuting attorney's office in no way handles the civil actions liabilities of the city of Walnut Ridge, and lucky for you, Henry, they don't, because your budget might be coming in a little bit over this year if they did. But let's talk about this. First off, knowingly refuses to submit to arrest. Here is that knowing refusal that Boyce's statement alleges.
Yeah, you're obstructing with my operation. No, let me tell you, I work for them. Look at all this stuff back here. What did I tell you about getting up on me, sir? Turn around.
That is okay with Henry Boyce. Henry Boyce is fine with that. In fact, let me just go through this statement again and show you something. When he states the word he or she knowingly refuses to submit to arrest, that's wrong, because he did not knowingly refuse Mr. Finley. You'll also notice that he never once mentioned in this statement, he never once mentioned anything about the obstruction of justice charge. All he says is that even if the authority is lacked to make the arrest, if they're acting as a law enforcement officer, you still have to submit. Even if they're arresting you for something you didn't do, you still have to submit. That's fine. We get that. We understand that. It's when you're being arrested, it's obviously not the time to argue with the officer. Finley wasn't arguing. He was in shock and had been told one time, turn around, put your hands behind your back. And his eyes are about to pop out of his head because he's being told this after working on the railroad. Right? He was in disbelief. There's no second or third or fourth command. It goes, turn around and put your hands behind your back.
Yeah, you're
and then it goes from that to this.
No, let me tell you, I work for them. Look at all this stuff back here. What did I tell you about getting up on me, sir? Turn around.
He almost grabbed him by the throat, guys. He reached right for his throat. He grabbed the collar. He reached right for his throat. And that's cool with Henry Boyce, by the way. It's also cool, apparently, with Deputy Prosecutor Ryan Cooper, whom we requested comment from and interviews with for several days. There's no response. Deputy Prosecutor Cooper is out of town at a, quote, conference, we're told. I've not verified what conference he's supposed to be at. But normally I wouldn't have to. Except when you start to see police officers charging people with crimes for writing complaints on dirty cops, you start to have to question everything. And that's the unfortunate part of this, is we're reaching the point where we have to start questioning more than just what we've seen, because everything we've seen is so bad. Cooper's out of town. He couldn't respond to multiple calls, messages that I left with his poor secretaries who sounded terrified when I called. But what I did do was submit a Freedom of Information Act request to the city of Walnut Ridge, to their police department, for all inter-office communications. between Deputy Prosecutor Cooper and the city of Walnut Ridge pertaining to this arrest. I'll be honest, I've looked through them all. I haven't found anything of interest in the content department except, weirdly enough, for one thing, the signature on Cooper's emails. This is actually a picture of it. This is Cooper's email signature. Quote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." We agree, Mr. Cooper. We very much agree. It wasn't just the deputy prosecutor that we had a chance to try to get a comment from today. Although we were more successful in this effort, we reached out to Walnut Ridge Mayor Charles Snapp. Now, he gave a statement on April 18th, and you guys may have already read that statement. It's in reference to him and the city referring this lawsuit and the defense of it to the Arkansas Municipal League. He said, quote, "To date, we've not met with an attorney assigned to the case." And he in essence said that they're not going to talk about it until the attorneys can advise them. Well, today I had a question for the mayor that I do not feel is pertaining to this case, and I'm going to show you the exact question and the exact quote that I sent to him. Question on record and not related to the lawsuit. I text this morning to the Walnut Ridge mayor. Quote, "In general, does Chief Chris Kirksey maintain your full confidence as head of law enforcement in Walnut Ridge?" I think that's a very important question based on what we've looked at over the last several days and the ability of some people to take a look at events that are transpiring on video and somehow interpret them in an opposite manner than hundreds of thousands of you by now who have already seen this. Here's the response that was sent out, not to me, but to all media outlets. The response was, "There's ongoing litigation with the city of Walnut Ridge on the Finley versus City of Walnut Ridge lawsuit, and the city is being represented by the Arkansas Municipal League. We have no further comments at this time." So you have no comment on if your police chief has confidence in you, or you have confidence in your police chief. That's the way I took it. Although he could have made a comment on that, just full disclosure. And I do consider it disturbing that there's silence in this instance. I want to show you just some stuff that is in relation to how big this is getting. The stats I pulled right here are actually already a couple of hours old. I pulled some screenshots of it. The video we posted on YouTube, 62,000 views already. The video that I did on the show yesterday, just my show yesterday, was 17,000 views. This is not going away. This is actually not going away and may get a lot bigger before it stops being talked about. And now, another aspect to the story. Apparently, the Walnut Ridge Police Department's Facebook page, and whomever is in charge of that, they're deleting comments, we're told. In fact, what you're looking at is a new Facebook page created called, quote, "Misconduct by Walnut Ridge Police Department." That's a page itself that's been created and dedicated to this. Full page. It says if you've had your social media posts removed and deleted, or you've been banished from posting on the Walnut Ridge Police Department page, please share with everyone in the world to see. If you've taken screenshots of your post that were then deleted by the police chief, please, it says, post below, share below. And we pulled a few of those screenshots. Excuse me. So one of them is this one, and it's incredibly long. I'm not going to read the entire thing. However, it is. I just want to highlight that the person that wrote it put a great deal of thought into it. And that person said the comment was deleted. That was one of several comments that they made on the page. Here is what I would suggest is actual evidence of the deleting taking place. The Walnut Ridge posts. Take, for instance, this one. It had 12 reactions to it, but it had 92 comments. When you click on the comments, this is what shows up. Nothing. Apparently, they've all been deleted. We saw one of the things that was being posted and shared by some folks was in the meme category and format. Derek Jordan made this and posted it on several Walnut Ridge city pages. In reference to the Beatles, a group that moved and came through Walnut Ridge, and a group that stood for many things in our society, in many people's eyes. I talked to Mr. Jordan. First of all, take a look at what this says. It's a powerful meme. It says, John Lennon only wanted to give peace a chance. Walnut Ridge has other plans. And he's calling for the removal of all things Beatles from the community. Talked to him. And his quote was, quote, John Lennon stood for free thought, liberty, freedom, love, and the right to live in peace. He lives in Bono, by the way. Considers himself a huge Beatles fan. But he said they stood for no wars and certainly no constitutional and civil rights violations. I pulled some other comments, and I just went through every thread that I could find on NEA Report and started pulling random comments. I want to show you some that stood out to me, some that got a lot of likes, some that didn't, but I thought were interesting and made me think, and I thought you might find value in too. Betty mentioned, I don't see any other way to look at this. He got charged because he went to the police and made a valid complaint, was even threatened with jail. Take a look at the moment that she's talking about. It's on camera. It's right here.
And that's a lot of writing.
Cookie told me here. I just got off the phone with the prosecuting attorney. I explained to him exactly what happened in this situation, and he has advised me to write.
Have you written a citation both for
Obstructing a governmental operation and refusal to submit to arrest. So you will be written those citations right now. This will be taken into account.
You right?
You'll be going to court. Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's fine.
So this will be taken into account.
Uh-huh.
There'll be an internal investigation, but from what was seen on camera,
Uh-huh.
and I talked to the prosecuting attorney, just now got off the phone with him. He told me to have you written those citations.
Okay, the driver's license. So I'm getting a ticket for something?
Yeah.
Exactly what, yeah.
He can't even believe he's being ticketed. He's laughing. But you can see something interesting, and I want to bring this back to the first point I brought up. His wife is not laughing because she's now thinking that her husband has brought her up there on a wild goose chase on something that he was really wrong about. And the reason that she's thinking that is this.
From what I saw, he's lucky he didn't go to jail.
She was told that by the police chief. Well, anyway, so let's go back to some more comments. And by the way, you guys may have seen that I pulled up an interesting comment in the middle of that. Justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. If you're just joining us or you missed it, that's a quote in the public record signature of the prosecutor who ordered these charges and then pursued them for 4 months. According to the FOIA records, Prosecutor Cooper, he had the video that you and I and everybody else in the world have seen and made common sense judgments on. He had the video the next week. It was in the first week of January, right? I pulled that. He FOIA'd it, or I'm sorry, he requested it. I FOIA'd the records. He said that, and that's where this email signature is pulled from. And he pursued the charges anyway, right? But honestly, when's the last time you remember a prosecutor saying, we're not going to pursue these charges because the police made a mistake? That doesn't happen very often. Not the mistakes, just the prosecutors standing up for what's right. So Troy Holton said in a comment, and this is telling, I'm a police officer. This is a bad situation. They made worse by trying to cover their butt with citations for the officer's action. The officer should have shown as much poise as Finley. I put that up because I've seen several police officers and prosecutors, lawyers, and others comment on this. And if you suggest in any way that there's things each side could have done differently, you're wrong. Because there's nothing that this railroad worker could have done to stop Officer Hothead from going crazy and
Yeah, you're obstructing with my operation. No, you
doing this.
I work for him. Look at all this stuff back here. What did I tell you about getting up on me, sir?
He shoves him into the car, almost by the throat. And there's nothing that Mr. Finley could have done differently. There's a lot that officer could have done differently. It's quite a bit. It's to suggest otherwise, or to suggest that anybody else could have shared fault in that, it's insane. And I'm just pointing that out. I've not had any comments on NEA report of that, because everybody, I think, knows better. But I did hear one person tell me that. I don't think they had seen the video. Thank you, Troy, for your comment. Police officer that says that the officer in this should have shown the same poise as Finley. Thank you, sir. Amy, who is a regular commenter on the NEA report, and we appreciate her, said, we're taught to respect the cops and not to fear them. But it's so hard when videos like this come out. It's devastating, especially to me. The reason being that I see how much work cops put in to what they do, and it's 99% good. And they are... I mean, there are, this afternoon, JPD busted $200,000 in crystal meth, cash, guns, drugs off the street. That's great. Folks could argue about the war on drugs being a failure, and I would entertain that argument, but it's great that the police are protecting us when they do, and they do. And they deserve, in general, a respect for doing a good job. The difference is you don't deserve to be treated like a different class of citizen because you're a cop and you pulled me over for a bad call or a bad reason. And that's what happened here. This officer wanted respect that he was not due. You're not due worship when you pull somebody over, officers. I'm sorry. Most of you know that. Most of you know that. In fact, every cop I know has been repulsed by this. All professionals too. Here's a comment I wanted to include. I try to give everyone a voice, and I will include all who comment. Quote, this is notoriously corrupt. They threaten with favors. If anybody thinks this is a one-time deal, they're sorely mistaken. If we have evidence that shows that, we will report it. I promise you. I would ask anybody watching, if you have evidence, for starters, if you get arrested for something that you did that you shouldn't have been arrested for, FOIA, submit a Freedom of Information Act request for everything that happens, and get that stuff to a media outlet. Riri Jones says, so your tone should never matter. And when you ask, why did you pull me over, you have every right to ask, because you didn't do anything wrong. Who wouldn't ask that? Hey, I want to know the same thing. I am waiting for somebody to tell me what the gentleman could have done differently, Finley. Because I don't know what he could have done differently. I genuinely want to know. I do know what this guy could have done
From what
differently.
I saw, he's lucky he didn't go to jail.
He could have not done that. He could have actually taken a step and a stand for accountability in his department. I am supremely disappointed tonight in the Walnut Ridge Police Department. I worked with them closely for the first 2 years of NEA report and for the time I spent at the Jonesboro Sun too. I've never seen anything like this from them. I can't believe that there are city officials defending this or not issuing comment or pretending like it's not absolutely unacceptable what happened. And I haven't even gotten into the stuff tonight and showed you the part where the officer cusses him up one side and down the other. That is just added wrong. But it's, to me, as wrong as that is, that's emotionally driven. There are no emotions driving the chief of police to charge this gentleman. There are no emotions driving Deputy Prosecutor Ryan Cooper to charge this guy. So why did they do it? Why did they make the mistake? What's weird about this is, and I know some people may disagree, Officer Mercado is, in my opinion, the least at fault out of all three, including the chief and the prosecutor. Because Officer Mercado, while he made terrible mistakes and should be charged with a crime for that, and there are, by the way, also crimes against filing false police reports that result in the arrest of someone, but you'll never see him charged with that because, well, that's a little hard for us to do around the prosecutor's office. But the prosecutor made the decision without emotions. So did the chief of police, to back up their guy, back the blue, right? Let me tell you, you got to be careful before you blanket back any group or any statement. In fact, I don't like blanket statements. I don't like saying everyone's wrong, everyone's right, this group is wrong, this group is right. We're all individuals. And in this case, an individual officer clearly made a terrible mistake.
No, let me tell you, I work for him. Look at all this stuff back here. What did I tell him about getting up on me, sir?
He shoved him so hard his feet come off the ground. And that officer clearly made a mistake. But what bothers me is that the mistake didn't stop there. It continued with the police chief covering up for this, which is what happened to this day. It continued with the city attorney, Nancy Hall, coming out with a deplorable statement saying that this was a negligent, a nuisance lawsuit. I'll throw that treasure of a quote up on the screen real fast so you can see that. That's what she called it Monday night at the Walnut Ridge City Council meeting. And now the prosecutor in the case pushing the charges forward until Mark Reese had this guy's back, went to court, and Judge Adam Weeks found him not guilty. But it's like another chapter opens in this when I think it can't get any worse, because then Henry Boyce comes out with that statement today saying that he's reviewed it and he thought that it was fine. He thought that the evidence justified the recommendation. I want to know what Boyce thinks evidence exists for obstruction of justice. Because Boyce says that he thought the recommendation that Cooper made to the chief of police was justified. Well, the recommendation included writing a citation for obstruction of justice and refusal to submit, which the refusal to submit charge was for the obstruction of justice. And in my opinion, you shouldn't be able to be charged with resisting arrest if the reason for the arrest is found to be invalid. But nonetheless, even though that you can, and even though that's the law, and even though we have to accept that, like it or not, where's the justification for the obstruction charge? I'm still waiting on that. Let me check my phone. Maybe I've been texted in the middle of this. Nope. Mr. Boyce hasn't texted me back yet. I'm sure he's watching. Maybe some of you guys in chat can say, hey, Henry Boyce, please talk to Stan. But I do know this. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to do this every day on my show until I can make this happen. I want to interview Ryan Cooper live on NEA Report, this prosecutor. And quite obviously, it's going to be an adversarial conversation, clearly. But if you're a big, bad prosecutor, you can handle it, right, Ryan? Answer us, answer our calls, quit dodging the media, talk to NEA Report, and let's hear the justification from you on why you pursue these charges. What, in your mind, was obstruction of justice? When a railroad worker is arguing with a clown who cannot figure out that this is a railroad worker. I'm sorry to yell this, but you know what BNSF stands for? Burlington Northern Santa Fe. That orange jacket he's got on, it's not in style this year. So, the badge he gave the officer at the beginning of the stop, it said BNSF. It said, I work for them. What's left to investigate? I've got to tell you, woe come the day that there's a true crime that needs to be investigated by someone with that level of mentality, because we're all in trouble, and they'll never find what's wrong. This was a shame, and a sham. But the worst of it all is, as we sit here right now at 5:34 p.m., we can't get the city to say that they did something wrong. This is a nuisance lawsuit to them. I'm sorry, but I can't imagine a statement more ridiculous. Back live on NEA Report, Stan Morris along with you, and getting set to actually show you something that I want to report on today that I haven't had a chance to mention, but very important news taking place this afternoon. Breaking news from the Jonesboro Police Department Street Crimes Unit, busting $200,000 worth of drugs. It was announced earlier today after a lengthy investigation that members of the Jonesboro Police Department Street Crimes Unit arrested Jonesboro residents. It said 2 Jonesboro residents on a number of drug charges. Eric Kent, 37, Maggie Miller, 24, facing charges now, including trafficking of a controlled substance, possession of a controlled substance, also with the intent to deliver, and possession of guns with the drugs, but also endangering the welfare of a minor. The bond set on Kent at $1 million, Miller at $100,000. More than 5 pounds of illicit drugs were seized during all of this. You can see the officer standing in front of the stuff there. See some scales here, the scissor here, the crystal meth here, cash all over the place. So, and it looks like that the Street Crimes Unit stayed busy with that one. Several months worth, it says, or excuse me, a significant period of an investigation resulting in hundreds of thousands of dollars of drugs off of the street. Folks are saying, hey, your commercials were muted. Yes, they were. I just realized that I left the mute button on for my audio. Oh, well, we'll probably run them again here in a second. So let me continue to tell you some other news, folks, because this week, weather-wise, it's been a little bit funky. It's time now for us to take a look at that New Wave Wireless weather forecast, home of the $49 iPhone screen repair. And well, you're watching those temperatures tonight go to kind of an area where we've it's been cooler today, to just say the least. In fact, let me pull this up and see if we've got that in right over here ready to go. Appreciate everybody that's joining us live in chat. We've had a busy news day today, a lot of stuff late breaking. Tonight we're actually expecting the overnight lows to drop down. Let's actually pull this up there. Bam. Tonight expecting the overnight lows to drop down to about 37 degrees. Patchy frost also possible for us this evening. Tomorrow high near 64, 44 for the low tomorrow night. And then Friday a high of 68 with partly sunny skies. Shower chances start to roll in on Saturday night and really become bigger Sunday. May even see a thunderstorm on Sunday, high around 60 or 61 degrees. So it'll be a little bit chillier this weekend, but I mean, you know, you're not talking too bad. Tomorrow's high around 68. It should still be a nice day, but you may end up dealing with a wind chill that's kind of biting out there for the folks. So right now, temperature's 55 degrees, fair skies in Jonesboro. If you're just joining us tonight, our top story on NEA Report, you can view it at neareport.com if you would like. We'll show it to you right now. 3rd Judicial District Prosecuting Attorney Henry Boyce says he supports at least one charge that was brought against the railroad worker. He said in his statement, which failed to mention the obstruction of justice charge that his deputy prosecutor pursued, he said that he viewed the matter and he felt that the citations being issued, he said the evidence justified the recommendation. He felt a judge disagreed and threw both of the charges out, and the city is now being sued by the railroad worker. I'm Stan Morris, and now you're up to date with news on NEA Report. Thank you so very much, everybody, for watching us tonight, and let's let our advertisers run again, since we have it muted.
Family Medical Clinic of Walnut Ridge and Bono are your neighborhood healthcare providers, and we're now accepting new patients. We know you have a tight schedule, so we're here 6 days a week at both locations from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Walk-ins are welcome. In Walnut Ridge, stop by 1045 West Main Street or call us to make an appointment, 886-8300. In Bono, we're on Highway 63 North or call 930-9990. Walnut Ridge Family Medical Clinic and Bono Family Medical Clinic. Here for you when you need us.
Haley Norris, Realtor. Should I make my hair go like this? Whether you need to buy, sell, or lease. Haley, can I use my hands? Or is that, where are my hands? Where do they go?
Just say,
Haley.
Just like Haley.
Whether you need my expertise. Haley Norris, Realtor. Or even do a commercial lease. Haley Norris, Realtor. Should I say Remax Real Estate Center or no? Is that too salesy?
No, that's it.
My average days on market is just 50 days. You need my expertise. And that means I'm putting more money back in your pocket.
Accidents happen. So what happens if you bring your car or truck to Stadium Auto Body? It's in the hands of a manufacturer-certified expert who'll treat it with respect. It's brought back to life using the advanced tools and technologies today's vehicles require. All makes, all models. At Stadium Auto Body, we do the job right, back our work with a limited lifetime warranty, and make the whole experience pleasantly easy. Accidents happen. We're what happens next. Tell your insurance company you choose Stadium Auto Body.